Greetings viewer and welcome to my channel Whispered Chapters, a storytelling escape where every tale feels like a secret past in the dark. From love found in unexpected places to mysteries hiding in plain sight, each episode delivers a bite-sized world you can fall into in minutes. It's emotional, cinematic, and addictive, perfect for anyone who wants powerful stories told fast, with twists that linger long after the final whisper fades. Please like and subscribe so you would never miss a story when it is posted. He arrived in town with nothing but a single suitcase and an urn. It was a Wednesday, late spring, and the streets of Maplewood were lined with dogwoods in bloom, little white blossoms like quiet explosions along every yard. He didn't notice. Not really. The only color he saw was the dull gray of the sidewalk and the haze that came from not sleeping for days. The U-Haul rental place thought it was a mistake when he said he had no furniture to unload. No bed. No boxes. No, just the suitcase? And this. He tapped the urn gently. She preferred to travel light. The clerk blinked, nodded, and handed him the keys. His new home was a small, slightly lopsided yellow house on the end of Sycamore Street. The front porch slanted like it was tired of holding itself upright, and the welcome mat said "Nope" in bold black letters. It was perfect. He didn't want to be noticed. Didn't want casseroles or condolences or polite inquiries about where he'd moved from. He had a list of things he was done with: small talk, parties, shared grief. He had come here to disappear. He slept on the floor the first night, wrapped in an old army blanket. The urn stayed on the windowsill. He didn't cry. Not anymore. He'd done all his crying when the machines stopped beeping, when the room smelled like antiseptic and silence, when the nurse said, "Take as much time as you need." Now he was just surviving. At least that was the plan. Until the knock. A sharp triple tap, rapid fire, like a code. He opened the door to a blur of curls and freckles and oversized red sneakers. "Hi," the boy said. "Are you a superhero?" The man blinked. "No," he said. The boy crossed his arms. That's what a superhero would say if he was hiding. And just like that, anonymity died on Sycamore Street. He tried to close the door. Politely, gently. But the boy stuck a sneaker in the way and looked up with wide, brown eyes that sparkled like they were always 2 seconds away from either brilliance or disaster. "You have the jawline of someone who saves cities," the boy said matter-of-factly. "And I saw you carry a single suitcase and nothing else. That's classic superhero behavior." The man rubbed his temples. "Kid. Eli," he corrected. "Eli Ford. I'm 9, almost 10. I live right there." He pointed to the neat white house next door with the blue shutters and a small basketball hoop mounted above the garage. "You're my new neighbor." "Congratulations," the man said dryly. "You're grumpy," Eli observed. "I'm busy." "You're standing in a doorway staring at an empty house." He had a point. Before the man could think of a reply, Eli's gaze drifted past him to the urn sitting on the windowsill. "What's that?" The man's voice hardened. "That's private." Eli didn't flinch. "My dad died too. Car accident. 2 years ago. People say I talk about it too much, but it's just part of my story. You know?" The man blinked. He hadn't expected that. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. Eli shrugged one shoulder. "It's okay. It still hurts sometimes. But I have Mom. And I have superheroes." The man tried again. "I'm not." Eli cut him off. "Not yet. But maybe you could be. If you wanted." Then he grinned, a gap-toothed explosion of joy, and bounced down the porch steps like he had springs in his heels. "See you tomorrow," he shouted over his shoulder. "I'll bring donuts." The man stood there long after the boy disappeared into the house next door. He looked at the urn, then at the doorway. And for the first time since she died, he whispered something into the silence. "I think I just got recruited." The next morning, the knock came again. This time it was a double-triple 6 knocks in 2 bursts. The man opened the door to find Eli standing there with a box of donuts, oversized sunglasses, and a towel wrapped around his shoulders like a cape. "Got jelly, chocolate, and 1 maple bacon," Eli said, lifting the box proudly. "That one's for you." You look like a maple bacon kind of guy. The man opened his mouth, ready to say he didn't like sweets, ready to send him home, but then he saw the effort, the look in the boy's eyes. He stepped aside. You can come in. Eli whooped and burst past him like a superhero late to a mission. The man blinked at the unexpected burst of joy now ricocheting around his living room. He hadn't had visitors since the hospital. And those had all come with condolences and casseroles, not donuts and towel capes. Eli wandered around the space like he was cataloging a crime scene. You don't have any chairs, he noted. Or a TV. Or a microwave. You are hiding something. I like the quiet, the man said, reaching for the maple bacon donut. He paused. What makes you so sure I'm not a villain instead? Eli grinned. Because villains don't let kids inside their houses. There was a knock at the door. Sharper. Heavier. The man opened it to find her. The boy's mother. She looked nothing like Eli, tall, lean, auburn hair pulled into a severe bun. She wore no makeup, but her presence was commanding. Eyes that had seen too much and refused to look away. She sized him up in 1 second flat. I'm sorry, she said, voice cool. Is my son bothering you? The man glanced at Eli, who was now balancing a donut on his forehead for reasons known only to him. No, he said. He's fine. I told you to ask first before coming over, she said to Eli. I did ask, Eli said. Yesterday. And he said he's a superhero. The woman's jaw tensed. She stepped into the house without waiting to be invited. You live here alone? She asked. Yes. No furniture? No. She folded her arms. You just moved in? 3 days ago. What's your name? The man hesitated. He hadn't planned on giving it out. But something about her. Maybe the exhaustion behind her anger, or the protective way she hovered between him and Eli, made him answer. Daniel, he said. Daniel Rourke. Her eyes flickered. Military? Once. She didn't smile, but the edge of her shoulders dropped slightly. I'm June Ford, Eli's mom. I'm a nurse. He nodded. Nice to meet you. It wasn't really a choice, she muttered. My son tends to barge through doors like he was born in a Marvel movie. You kind of let me, Eli added. June sighed. I have rules, she said to Daniel. If he's bothering you, tell me. If you ever feel uncomfortable having him here, you shut the door. And if I find out you so much as make him cry, I will unleash a maternal storm the likes of which you've never seen. Daniel blinked. Understood. June glanced at the urn. She didn't ask, but she saw it, and he could tell, by the softening in her eyes, by the slight tremble in her next breath, that she understood more than she let on. Well, she said, tone neutral, enjoy your donuts. Then she turned to Eli. 15 more minutes. Then homework. 15 minutes. Eli beamed. He could teach me combat training in that time. Or how to sweep a floor, Daniel offered dryly. Eli looked intrigued. Are you a janitor and a superhero? Daniel chuckled. When they left, he stood at the door and watched them walk next door. June paused just before stepping inside and looked back. For a moment, neither said a word. But he nodded once. And she, almost imperceptibly, nodded back. The first time Daniel really laughed again, it was because Eli tied a dish towel around his cat's neck and declared him Captain Whiskers, the Silent Fury. The cat did not agree to this. He bolted under the couch, knocking over the only lamp Daniel had unpacked. Eli gave chase with the kind of shriek reserved for roller coasters and revolutions. Daniel watched, wide-eyed, as chaos unfolded in real time. One very determined boy versus one very unamused feline. And for some reason, Daniel laughed. Out loud. The kind that surprised even him. Not a bitter chuckle. Not a huff of disbelief. A full, deep sound that shook loose something in his chest. When Eli finally emerged from beneath the couch, face smudged, holding up a fistful of cat fur like a trophy, Daniel was still grinning. You're not bad at this, Eli said breathlessly. At what? Life stuff. Laughing. Not being a statue. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Thanks. Eli plopped down beside him on the floor, licking frosting off his fingers. You should come over for dinner. Mom makes lasagna when she's trying to impress people. Daniel hesitated. Is that something she wants? Eli looked at him. I think she wants to know if you're safe. Like, in your soul. Daniel blinked. That hit harder than he expected. He nodded. Okay, lasagna it is. Dinner at the Fords was louder than Daniel remembered dinners being. Eli narrated most of it, about school, about a science experiment gone wrong, about how he was this close to figuring out if squirrels were trainable. June mostly listened, interjecting only to remind him to chew or slow down. Daniel noticed the tired set of her shoulders, the way her eyes always drifted toward the window when the wind picked up, like she was waiting for something. Or someone. He recognized it. That haunted stillness. He'd lived in it for months. So, June said finally, placing a warm slice of garlic bread on Daniel's plate. What's your story? Daniel looked up. Excuse me? I've Googled you. There's not much. No social media. No LinkedIn. No forwarding address from the last city. No friends I can find. Just a few old articles from a military base overseas. And a wedding notice. 12 years ago. Daniel swallowed hard. You Googled me? I'm a single mom. That's the bare minimum. He nodded, slowly. I used to be a reconnaissance specialist, he said. Army. Then private sector. Surveillance. Field ops, the works. Not the kind of stuff they write headlines about. And not the kind of work that keeps people close. June waited. I met Sarah during a debrief at a VA hospital. She was a psychologist there. Tougher than anyone I'd ever met. Smarter, too. She made me feel like the parts of me I wanted to bury were worth something. And she passed away? June asked, voice softer now. Daniel nodded. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She was gone 6 months later. June didn't speak for a long time. Then, that's a lot of weight to carry in one suitcase. Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Yeah, he said. It is. They sat in silence for a bit, broken only by Eli humming something off-key while he built a tower of garlic bread slices. I'm sorry, June said finally. Daniel nodded. Me too. And though neither said it out loud, something passed between them in that moment. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. Two people with broken maps, finally acknowledging they were lost in the same wilderness. It started with a weather report. June had the news on in the background while folding laundry. A low-pressure system was spinning out over the valley, dragging a wall of thunder and 60-mile-per-hour winds behind it. Warnings blinked across the screen. Take cover. Expect outages. Flash flood watches in effect. Maplewood had seen storms before, but this one had a name. Daniel, across the street, stood on his porch like he could will the clouds away. The sky was an ominous, silent purple, the kind that whispered of things breaking. He checked the urn on the mantel, just to be sure. Then he walked next door. June opened the door before he knocked. You don't think this will miss us? She asked. He shook his head. Too wide. Already started hitting the next county. She sighed, looking back at the living room where Eli was building a Lego spaceship that had more guns than structure. I've got a flashlight, some water and snacks, she said. We're good. Basement. She shook her head. Crawl space only. Daniel frowned. My house has a reinforced storm cellar. Steel door. Old Cold War upgrade. June raised an eyebrow. You're inviting us over? During an actual emergency? He shrugged. Figured I'd lean into my superhero rep. She stared at him for a moment too long, then nodded. Let me grab a bag. By the time the storm hit, the wind was howling like it had something to prove. Tree limbs snapped, trash cans rolled like tumbleweeds down the street, and lightning cracked across the sky like the gods were in a bar fight. In the cellar, they huddled on blankets and cushions. Daniel had turned the space into a shelter in the short time he had moved in, which he thought may come in handy leaning on his military expertise and experience. June sat against the wall beside him, eyes closed, trying to mask her worry. Eli curled up under her arm, fingers clutching her shirt in his sleep. "I hate storms," she said softly, voice barely above the wind. "Always have." Daniel nodded. "Me too. It's the waiting." She looked over. "You ever see combat?" He hesitated. "Yes." "Was it worse than this?" "Different," he said. "Louder inside. Quieter outside." June seemed to understand. "Sarah used to tell me the worst pain was the kind you never gave a name," Daniel said. "The stuff you pretended didn't hurt." June was quiet for a long moment. "My husband died on a Tuesday. He left to pick up milk. Got T-boned by a driver going 40 over. I got a call before I even realized he'd been gone too long. He was gone in 3 minutes." "I'm sorry," Daniel said. She shook her head. "I'm tired of being sorry. I want to be something else." Outside, the wind began to slow. Just a little. "I don't know if I can do this again," she whispered. Daniel didn't ask what this meant. He didn't need to. He reached out, slowly, carefully, and took her hand. Warm, shaking, alive. "I don't know either," he said. "But maybe we don't have to know. Not yet." She looked at him like he was some kind of puzzle she didn't expect to want to solve. "Maybe you really are a superhero," she said quietly. "No cape," he replied. "I don't think you need one." And for the first time in years, as the storm above them finally began to die, Daniel allowed himself to imagine the sky clearing. After the storm, the world looked like it had forgotten how to hold itself together. Branches littered the street like abandoned limbs. Power lines sagged. Shingles had taken flight. But by some miracle, both the yellow house and the white one next door were intact. The storm cellar door creaked open with a metallic groan. Daniel stepped out first, scanning the sky like a habit, old instincts still firing. June and Eli followed, blinking into the pale morning light. "Is it over?" Eli whispered. Daniel nodded. "For now." They spent the day together, cleaning debris, helping neighbors, handing out bottled water from Daniel's stash. No one asked questions. The whole street seemed to breathe easier just having someone tall, calm, and quietly capable directing traffic. Daniel didn't mind. For once, he didn't feel like he was hiding in plain sight. That night, June invited him to stay for dinner again. No pretense. No Eli excuses. Just her. "Spaghetti," she said, setting the pot on the table. "It's what I make when I don't know what to say." Daniel smiled. "Then it's perfect." Eli fell asleep on the couch halfway through The Iron Giant, his current obsession, and June didn't move him. Instead, she poured 2 glasses of wine and motioned toward the porch. They sat in the quiet, the storm smell still clinging to the air. "You ever think grief is just love with nowhere to go?" she asked. Daniel looked at her. "All the time." She took a sip of wine. "When Alex died, I thought that was the end. Not just of marriage. Of believing in anything lasting. I didn't want Eli to grow up thinking love meant losing people. But I also didn't want to fake it. So I just kept moving." "I did the opposite," Daniel admitted. "Stopped everything. I couldn't imagine loving again. Like it would somehow be a betrayal." She turned to him, her expression soft. "And now, I'm starting to think love isn't a replacement," he said. "It's a continuation." June studied him, as if that was the final piece of a puzzle she'd been building since the day he moved in. Then she leaned forward, slowly, and kissed him. Not a fireworks kiss. Not dramatic or cinematic. But warm, true, like sunlight on stone. He kissed her back. Gently, reverently, like someone touching a fragile thing for the first time in years. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. "Okay," she whispered. "Maybe we try again." And he said the only thing that made sense. Yes. Summer came gently that year. The air was soft, the trees heavy with green, and life began to settle into something resembling peace. Daniel bought a second-hand couch. A real bed. He let Eli convince him to get a dog. Something scrappy and lopsided they named Socks, because he had 4 white paws and a bark like a squeaky toy. He started fixing up the old shed out back, converting it into a workshop/lab for Eli's science experiments. On Saturdays, They flew drones together in the empty field outside town. Eli wore goggles and shouted things like, "Engage thrusters," while Daniel corrected his trajectory with steady hands and quiet guidance. He wasn't Eli's father, but in every way that mattered, he was. On the 1-year anniversary of Sarah's death, June found him on the porch, urn in hand. "You okay?" she asked. Daniel looked out at the horizon, where the sun dipped low over the trees. "I think I'm ready," he said. He didn't mean to forget her. He meant to carry her forward. They drove to the lake Sarah loved. Eli helped scatter her ashes across the water, watching the wind lift her into sky. "Think she's watching?" Eli asked. Daniel swallowed. "I hope so." They stood there in silence for a long time, arms wrapped around each other, watching the ripples fade. Later that evening, June curled up beside him on the porch swing. The stars blinked awake overhead. Eli snored softly inside, sprawled across the couch with a comic book still in hand. "I never thought I'd have this again," June whispered. "A home, a heart." Daniel kissed her temple. "Me neither." She smiled, eyes closed. "And you still haven't told him you're not a real superhero." Daniel grinned. "Maybe I am, just in disguise." And as the night settled around them, warm and still and full of everything they'd almost lost, Daniel knew something with complete, unshakable certainty. He didn't just live next door anymore. He had come home. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. Please like and subscribe so I can keep more stories of every kind coming to you.